We got our first real taste of snow this week, and although it was quite a bit early, we ended up having close to 7 inches between the two storms. The snowstorm was a friendly reminder that I had a few things left undone that I'd been putting off for too long. Our shallow well is fairly maintenance-free over winter as long as it can get enough sun or as long as I can turn the generator on and provide the power that the converter needs to pump the water up to our storage tanks. For the last 2 years, the generator has sat on the ground and the converter was taped to the underside of the solar panel, which is not the best place for either one of these things. I ran down and picked up a couple of 8-foot cedar posts, cut them in half, and today's the day I'm going to build a winter-proof box for both the generator and the converter. About 2 winters back, I wired up the solar panels to a 3-way switch, which allows us to throw one of the 2 switches and either run the generator or let the solar panels do their job. For a good part of the year, the generator just sits there and does nothing. I've learned that using ethanol-free gas helps a whole bunch, but by the end of the winter, the generator has been exposed to way too much snow, and this year, the carburetor on the generator filled up with water because it was sitting out in the elements. I've had that little Honda generator for years, and the thing has really never let me down. So the least I can do is get it set up where if I'm not around, it doesn't require a whole lot of effort to switch it back and forth between the solar panels and the generator. Most of the wood I'm using is scrap wood left over from different projects. And of course, I'm going with the board and batten look. I'm leaving a small corner of the back of the generator box open so the exhaust can escape without issue. But it is a wood box, and the generator puts off heat, so I need to be careful how I do this. The first winter that we lived up here at our house, before the downstairs was even finished, it took about 4 days of no sunlight to run out of water. After an urgent email to RPS Solar, the company that I got the shallow well pump kit from, they overnighted a converter to me, and we've been using that converter ever since. It's a fairly simple system, But again, the converter should not be out in the elements like it's been for the last 2 years. Because we have so much that relies on solar around our place, I have a whole bunch of MC4 connectors, which is the standard connection used on solar panels. And I also have the crimper that's required with those connections. And while I would love to be working on one of the new solar panel arrays and getting that finished up before hard winter sets in, I need to get this taken care of first. It seems like we always have an early storm in October at some point, but this is the most snow that I can remember for as long as we've owned our land. My aunt and uncle that live about 45 minutes south of us received almost twice as much snow as we did. And because the snow was so heavy, it took out power lines and knocked down trees all around their town. Fortunately for us, our power stayed on. But the snowstorm again was a friendly reminder of what can happen around here. My gut feeling is that it will dry out and I will have more than enough time to get the barn built and to get the side sheds built on the front and the back of the shop before winter really sets in. The mornings are below freezing. By midday, I'm sweating. By the evening, I again have my coat on. This is the typical Idaho weather this time of year. By the way, the snow slid off the solar panels without any issues. The snow then slipped off the first floor. I'm certain that the pitch on the first floor roof that was changed over summer will more than solve our problems over winter. But I still need to get on the front porch and get that done as well. We are always behind the 8 ball, as they say, when it comes to the projects around here. Because of the mountain lion issues, we now have the goats down in the front pasture, but I was hoping we could keep them up on the hill a little longer. Last week, my neighbor came over, and this is the same neighbor that lost 12 goats last year. He came over and informed me that he lost 2 goats within the same 2 or 3 day span that I lost that goat. Normally the state fish and game trapper would come help us with this situation, but he's not able to do anything right now. Okay, this is the last spot where I found that goat carcass. Ruby's hitting on all the smells around there. I haven't seen any more tracks right here, but again, snow and probably a good 2 or 3 inches of rain. But what I did just find right there on the ground is the left front shoulder of that goat. My gut feeling is it's not a very old mountain lion. It's probably a mountain lion of the year, maybe a 30 or 40 pound mountain lion. But they're killers, and the main concern is that it ate that front shoulder off of my goat, but my neighbor's 2 goats, other than the punctures on the neck, there was no other injuries. So, when my neighbor reached out to the state fish and game trapper, the one thing that he has said on a few different occasions is that when it comes to coyotes and mountain lions, we are completely within our rights to protect our livestock and do what we have to do to protect our livestock. My fear is that one of us is going to lose another goat before the state trapper gets out here and helps us with this. But our goats are down in the barn by the shop there, which is a lot closer to the house, and we haven't had any issues since we did that, but we're going to have to keep an eye on this for sure. Now that they're down here in the front yard for the rest of the winter, the barn is the next project. The plan is to build the barn in such a way where we have a room for the goats, not only for shelter, but also a portion of that room will be available for milking the goats and or for kidding when the goats have their babies, which means that I'll probably insulate the room and make it as comfortable as I can for them. As much as they can be a pain at times, we enjoy having the goats around. Before I hauled the generator down to the shallow well in the new generator box, I wanted to make sure it was running good. And this generator, like, I've never really maintained it very well. I bought it when I first started my plumbing company like 17 years ago from my older brother, who used it for years. And I just put gas in it. I never really even changed the oil. It didn't get used that much. It rolled around on a truck with me. So as much as we rely on it over winter, I thought maybe it's a good idea to change the oil. I changed the oil, and of course it was filthy black oil. And then I went to start it, and it wouldn't start. I pulled the carburetor off, and the carb was full of water. So I cleaned the carburetor, changed the spark plug, changed the oil, got it running tip-top, because again, when we need this, we have no other option. When we have to fall back on the generator, that means we haven't had enough sun for 3 days typically. And now we're running our shallow well pump off of the generator. So of course I need this thing to perform at its best. As I put the carburetor back together, now I've got one of the seals with a little bit of a leak. So I'm still going to take everything down there. It's an easy seal to replace. And the new box is winterproof. The problem with the box is it probably weighs 250 pounds. So I've got my son Rhett here. I'm going to see if he can help me haul it down there. I'm actually going to take the front door and the lid off the top to try and lighten it up, and I'm going to get everything down there using the three-wheeler, and then hopefully me and him can get it down there. When my older brother went off to law school, I bought this generator from him for a few $100, if I remember correctly. This generator might be one of the best investments I've made because it has really never let me down. But as I was almost finished with the new box for the generator, I decided to try and start it, and that's when I discovered the carburetor was full of water. The last thing that I have to do is get the positive and negative from the solar panels tied into the converter. They were a little bit too short after we got this set in place. I'm going to try and move some rocks around and scoot it back a little bit as well, and get it as stable as I can. Had I waited until we absolutely needed the generator to figure this out, that would not have been fun. But for the most part, this is the only thing I've had to worry about with this old Honda generator. I will then need to get the porch built over the back of the shop that will cover the new backup generator as well as the diesel storage tank. But getting those posts in the ground before the ground freezes is something I've got to get done. Rhett helped me get the heavy box set in place, get the front door and the lid put back on it, Then get the newly refreshing generator set back in place, and except for the minor gas leak, we're ready to go. This means until the parts get here for the generator, I cannot rely on it because I really don't want any gas leaking this close to the shallow well. Using the MC4 connectors, I tied the 3-way switch into the converter, and everything is now good to go. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but every year that we live this lifestyle, we are given an opportunity to improve upon where we're at. It is my nature to figure out the best possible way we can live this life that we've chosen to live. And as the current world turns, this seems to be one of the better decisions that we've made. But now I'm thinking I may want to get one more converter to keep on hand just in case, because if that converter went down, we would again be in a tight spot. As far as the winterproof generator box is concerned, it turned out perfect. Maybe a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but hopefully the generator will never be down in the snow again. All this was done in the name of simplicity and mainly protecting that generator from having it sitting on the ground like I've had it for the last 2 years. It got water in the carburetor. So if I'm ever not around, Cedar or Rhett could come down here and start the generator up and get the water flowing. So there's not really a whole lot more I could do as far as simplicity is concerned. I changed the oil in that generator. I cleaned that carburetor out, and now I have a leak around the bowl gasket, which I have a gasket coming. But other than that, we're good to go.